Hello, I'm attorney Dan Marr from the Nashua, New Hampshire law firm of Hamlin Kerrigan. I've been practicing law in New Hampshire for about 38 years and in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for about 28 years. I'm going to be focusing in today in New Hampshire in regards to social gatherings with coworkers. Last week I did a weekly blog in regards to the topic of what happens outside the workplace can impact the workplace, and I went into some details of varieties. One of the things I want to delve into more detail on is the coworker social gatherings. First, there's the company-sponsored social events. There's a holidays coming up. You may have a Christmas party or a holiday party that's coming up, and the company might actually sponsor that. Obviously, you should have a good understanding that it's not time to get drunk at that company-sponsored party. It used to be, I see a lot less of it now, but I used to, since I've been doing this employment work and business work for decades, where in January I would get a surge of sexual harassment complaints where the boss professed his love in a drunken stupor to his subordinate and tried to make moves on her or him, and then there was a sexual harassment complaint raised in January for what happened in a Christmas party or a holiday party. That happens a lot less now. I think at least at the supervisor level, a lot of them are getting smarter. There's still some that I'm still dumbfounded with how they could still in 2025 think this way, but it's less. It happens more often though with coworkers thinking that they can espouse when that's a company-sponsored party or even a coworker gathering, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But in the company-sponsored gathering, obviously the bosses should be monitoring the situation, monitoring also for alcohol consumption. Even if there's a bartender that's licensed that's dealing with the issues, you should be concerned about what's called dram shop liability of providing alcohol. Cash or open bars is a bad idea. I'd strongly recommend against open bars in a company-sponsored party, but also monitoring to see that the bartenders are paying attention to people only getting a couple of drinks that night. 2 drinks is a good choice, or no more than two normal drinks, not strong drinks, for the whole night. And they can go to NAs, non-alcoholics, or mocktails, or water, or whatever else, or soda water, whatever they want to do, but something that's non-alcoholic. That makes sense, making sure that they're not misbehaving. Watch out about political views. One of the details in people think about all the time with politics is, well, I have freedom of speech. The government constitutional right of freedom of speech. The First Amendment freedom of speech right is the government can't impact your speech. Private employers can, in a variety of ways, impact your speech. So if you're talking about some politics and you're getting animated about it, particularly if you're creating friction between your coworkers, you might lose your job for that in a private sector. You get a little more protection in the public sector in regards to that because, again, it's the government, but there's still rules there. You can't go off and tell somebody they're stupid because they don't believe your political views. But you have a little bit more there. In the private sector, you're an employee at will. You can be fired with or without cause or with or without notice, other than certain statutory or common law sections. And I'm telling you, mouthing off about your opinion of the president and getting a favor or disfavor of him, and getting into a discord, a negative discord with somebody can affect your job. So your co-employees and the employer can deal with it. For the employer itself, just because somebody, a subordinate, doesn't agree with your views, if you're a small company, you think, well, we all should think alike. That's a horrible mistake for a manager to think that way. You want good qualified people working for you. You want people to make money for you. That's the goal of this. And also for employees, when you're thinking about what you're saying in your speech, I always counsel employees to say, your goal is to make your boss look good. If you can make your boss look good, then you are going to thrive in the corporate ladder. If you don't like that, you move to another job that you like. But also, if you're doing that in the sector, you stand a good chance of being able to make a move, an upward mobility move into another location. If there's a coworker party and it's not company sponsored, you still have some obligations there. The workplace, sexual harassment workplace obligations still apply if somebody is hitting on somebody aggressively, or maybe they think they've watched too many rom-coms and they think that if they are cute in their attractions to somebody that keeps on saying no, if they keep on saying no, they really mean yes. That person needs to be brought in line, and maybe on Monday morning, if they're not grabbing a person or doing something of that level, maybe they just need to be taught, maybe some training on sexual harassment, and certainly counseling as to stop it. They should have that discussion, and maybe they'll get better in regards to that. You know, I've seen some situations somebody sends a romantic poem and they slip it into the person's workstation, and they think that they've obviously watched too many rom-coms, and the person says no, and they're just being persistent. Don't follow the office politics of The Office, the sitcom. That's a fun show, but frankly, you should do everything the opposite of what The Office is. It's very comedic. I like it a lot, but don't do it. So in the workplace, you do have parameters there, and in the social gatherings with the coworkers, you do have parameters. If you're dealing with a difficult person, this is the last point I mentioned briefly before, think about how you can interact with that person to change topics if they're talking about politics or they're talking about something else. And maybe you remove yourself from the conversation, but if you're able to have a good conversation with them of something of mutual interest, pets, children, grandchildren, rather than who's the president or who's the governor, and certain politics, if you can change those dynamics, you're learning how to deal with difficult people. That might help you with customers, vendors, certainly with coworkers, and it's a learning process. It's difficult to learn that, but it's worthwhile doing it. I'm Dan Marr at Hamlin Kerrigan at 603-883-5501, 603-883-5501. You can also check out my vlogs by going to our website, naturalllaw, all one word.com, naturalllaw.com, and then click on to my bio, and then you can get to the YouTube. Look forward to working with you if the opportunity arises. Thank you.